Hello my stars and just guests of the channel, it's your girl Rosa Shadow or simply Miss Rosa, and it's been way too long since I've said those words. Considering my last talking video on YouTube came out like a whole year ago, today I finally gonna break down why I've been Mia this entire time. So let me take it all the way back to the beginning spring 2025. That was a road patch. My little dog Bagel was literally my reason for getting up in the morning, and honestly I was only holding on for him. By that point I didn't have any friends, my family left like strangers, and the depression I've been dealing with since I was a teenager started spiraling out of control at full speed. I was genuinely on the edge, and don't worry, I'm not encouraging anything. YouTube, we don't support that. So to try and distract myself, I start recording gameplay videos, trying to get creative, picking up hobbies, experiment with my style, changing up my hair, putting myself out there to meet new people, but honestly none of this really helped. I was barely hanging on, trying to push through, but I kept crashing and falling into complete despair. I was on meds, but they weren't doing much, and this went on until June last year, until I met someone who completely turned my life around for the better. We talked for about a month, and last forward to today, I've been in a healthy relationship for a whole year now. Because of him, I actually started living again and trying to move forward. Funny enough, when we met, I wasn't the only one who was, let's say, half dead inside. So we made a promise to live for each other, and from that moment, we start saving up to move out. And of course, as soon as things start getting better, new problems popped up. First off, I accidentally dropped my phone. The screen and processor both gave out, so I had to go a whole month without the until I could get a new one. Also, my relatives couldn't have cared less about my plans or opinions. Not only did they wait 2 whole months to tell me my grandpa has passed, but without even asking me, my mom brought my grandma over to stay with us. And for 2 weeks, my life turned into complete chaos. I had to cancel plans with my boyfriend because for reasons I hadn't told anyone about him except my mom, since I was living with her at the time. My grandma wouldn't leave me alone for a second. She constantly needed something from me, and of course she couldn't care less about my 3D projects or gameplay recording. On top of that, I had to eat on her schedule and only she cooked, and no amount of explaining or sharing my opinion mattered. Plus constant surveillance, zero time to myself. So years those were quit and 2 weeks. After that, I not only needed time to mentally recover, but I also had to take care of Bagel. He had arrhythmia and liver failure. Hence by that, I got my new phone and celebrated my 19th birthday. By the time Bagel started getting better, an anime festival rolled around. I cosplayed as Hatsune Miku, and yes, that was my very first cosplay. My boyfriend and I traveled to another city, and so many people came up to me asking for photos, even a family from Japan. There were so many talented cosplayers and performances, but the cover of Ado was definitely my favorite. Summer ended on a pretty positive note. Then September hit and I got hit with seasonal intestinal issues. While I was recovering, I was also fighting with my family. Lots of misunderstanding with my mom. We just see life differently, and her behavior was honestly draining. She literally can't go to the doctor by herself. I have to go with her. When I was a kid, her and my grandma did the same thing, dragging me everywhere with them. Now that I start saying no, they make me feel like I'm the bad guy, like I owe them. Meanwhile, our sons start walking away from home for 3-4 months. At the time, I've been handling all my own problems solo. And at the time, I'll deal with everything. Peeps busting during hunting season, Bagel getting sick, someone trying to take out a locker in my name, sorting out paperwork, negotiation with the landlord about the utilities, and I even somehow managed to meet a literal creep. But according to them, I'm still not independent. There were also more personal issues with my mom that really messed with my head, and I had to constantly lie to the rest of my family. All thought conversations and her problems just excited me. When she left again in October, I tried to pull myself together and focus on creative stuff and my little Bagel. I was getting ready for his 12th birthday and even bought him a new bed. That same month, I dropped a song called Psycho Sick in my Russian YouTube channel, decided to my boyfriend, and finished my first playroad of a Diabolic Lovers game. Then in November, I filmed an unboxing video on a collection I'd been saving up for about a month. Literally 4 days after I posted on the weekend after a walk, I noticed an infection of Bagel's puff, and since I've been holding all his medical stuff since I was 17, it was on me. Monday we went to the vet, turned out he had an abscess and conjunctivitis, and he started losing weight rapidly. Then for months I was basically in Groundhog Day mode. All my time went to him bandaging his puff, cleaning and rinsing his eyes, monitoring his food, giving him pills. And because he was old and stubborn, he was a handful. We only went outside 5 times that whole week because they well told us to limit walks so he wouldn't pick up more infections. And he couldn't really wear his boots because his puff was so swollen they'd squeeze it and hurt him. After a week that puff started healing, but then the infection spread to the other one. So back to the vet we went, and that came with its own drama. She wasn't just uncooperative, she acted like she wasn't obligated to treat him. And trust me, in the 2 years I lived there, I visited plenty of clinics, and this was the only one with a healthy decent care. It felt like all the so-called vets are just there to clock in and only give proper service to their favorites. Week 2 I kept reading Bagel. We didn't go outside once. His only walks were to the vet and to his pipette. I was rebandaging his puffs up to 4 times a day, spending practically every waking moment on him. He was weak and refused to eat, so sometimes I had to spoon feed him. Week 3 we finally got outside, but he was too weak to really walk. He's already fading here and was getting worse, and his vision suddenly plummeted too. They also had to pull a few trees because of turtle buildup, but because of his condition they couldn't put him under anesthesia. He might not have woken up, so they left the rest. It wasn't just that veterinarian who told us this, but also others in that city. Bagel was deterioration fast. He mostly just slept and ate, and he'd often stay close to me. Once a weekend he even responded to my boyfriend. They clicked immediately from the very first meeting. Week 4 the conjunctivitis started cleaning up, but the abscesses wasn't fully healing. We went to the vet 3 days in a row. She prescribed more meds and gave him shots. That when the seizure started, especially in his head, and he had terrible weakness. He couldn't even swallow anymore. I had to blend his food, water it down, and syringe feed him. On the 3rd day he slept the entire morning at the vet and at home. She could clearly see his condition, but said absolutely nothing. Obviously, with his heart and liver issues, they couldn't do IVs or surgery, but she also offered zero guidance on what to do next. Plus, the 3rd day was a short day for her right before Christmas. When we got home, he completely collapsed, started wetting himself, and 2 hours later he threw up blood. I called the vet, no answer. I kept flipping him from side to side just to check if he was still breathing. He was lying in a deeper, his immune system just couldn't fight anymore. He had seizures all day and just slept. Toward evening I fed him, and he still responded to me even though he was so weak. He'd wag his tail when he heard me, but at night it got worse. His puffs got cold, the seizures interfered, and then internet bleeding started. I could tell from his stool. That whole month I barely slept, monitoring his condition, but that night was the worst. I barely closed my eyes, maybe 4 hours total, waking up every 30 minutes to check in on him. By morning I knew it was over. There was no point in dragging it out and making him suffer. He wasn't getting better, and no vet clinics would answer because of the holidays. He was just fading right in front of me. I had already saved some numbers, so I started start calling around for anesthesia. I want him to go on his own until the very end, but I couldn't watch him suffer anymore. Out of 8 numbers, only one woman agreed to come. Then I called a cremation service. I decided years ago that when the time came, I'd cremate him, so he could always stay with me. So the last 5 years were unbearable. I stayed with Bagel until they took him away, and the moment the elevator doors closed, exactly 1 p.m., my alarm went off. It was set to remind me to walk Bagel. That incident just hit me like a ton of bricks. It really sank in. I had breakdowns during his treatment and even more after he was gone. I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't just accept it, and my family, they poured gasoline on the fire by completely invalidating my grief. That day I lost my family for good. That was the last straw, the line they crossed. My dad said to just bury him under a tree. He's just a dog. My grandma told me not to be sad and that I had no right to fall into depression. Little does she know I had it since I was 13. My other grandma said people have bigger problems and grief because of the war. They're losing their homes and families, but this is just a Bagel. You will survive. And my mom, she called him a traitor for leaving her, completely dismissing everything I did to treat him and how much peace suffered. To me, enslaving Bagel was the same as enslaving me, and all my relatives knew that perfectly well. Only my boyfriend, despite having work, came to me the next day and stayed by my side, comforting me. He was the only one I could actually talk and cry to. That day my reason for living dead, my little ray of hope, my sunshine. Over all of those years, Bagel wasn't just a dog. He was my family, my little brother. I couldn't picture my life without him. If I had to face all of that alone, I wouldn't be here right now. My boyfriend is the only reason I made it through that loss. For a long time, I felt guilty. I wasn't a perfect owner and may have made mistakes, but I tried my absolute best. I fought for his life until the very end, following the doctor's treatment plan despite their unprofessional behavior. But alas, I had no choice. It took me a long time to bring myself to have him euthanized, and for a long while I couldn't forgive myself for that decision. Yet I realized that if I had done it, he would have died anyway, only in pain. I made myself a cozy little spot and just stayed there. I didn't even notice a whole month go by. I just cried, ate and thought about Bagel. I had no energy, no desire to do anything. When the tears finally stopped, I just sit in silence, staring at his photo on the urn. For 2 months I kept hearing and seeing him, feeling his presence, which only made it harder to accept that he was really gone. In January it snowed and it stuck around for almost a month. Even though poodles are summer dogs, Bagel loved the snow. He ran around and goofed on it. That just made everything hard more. All the time my boyfriend came to see me every weekend and stay by my side. We'd go on walks, play games, cook together, share memories of Bagel. Basically, he did everything he could to help me get out of my head. Around then we started new antidepressants, but they didn't work for us. He got a skin reaction and I started having nightmares, feeling heavy and foggy. Even after some time, our side effect didn't fade. They actually made things worse. The dreams weren't just realistic, they were a twisted version of Bagel, almost hallucinatory. After a thought, I didn't even want to fall asleep. A couple times the dreams felt so real, I want to stay in them longer, and waking up from thought sent me into an even deeper depression, so I had to switch treatments. Around the same time, my mom came back from work, followed by dad and grandma, because in a week my mom was planning to send her abroad for work. So once again, I didn't get any time to grieve or just be alone. When they were all together, they get drunk and turned the place into a curses. That patient on my room invited expected me to solve their problems like always, and they touched Bagel's urn, disturbing his peace. The only thing keeping me going was snowing and moved out in the spring and never have to see them again. My mom started guilt-tripping me, saying I was abandoning her, that she had no one but me, that Bagel betrayed her, just piling on the mental pressure. My grandma started pulling her power trips again, telling me I wasn't allowed to grieve properly. My grandpa dead, she became completely unbearable. I couldn't even cry around her without getting judged for it. Once they all finally left, my boyfriend took 2 weeks of work. At last with him I started feeling more human again. We even visited another city to scout it out for our potential move. Around the time in February the song Loop in the Rooms was trending and I made a little animation in memory of Bagel. After that no more YouTube videos, I just didn't have the time or emotional energy. By March we decided we had enough saved up and could move in April, ideally before my relatives showed up again. I planned to tell them about the relationship after the move. By then our plans suddenly changed. Because of the situation in the country, we got an offer to move to the Czech Republic. Basically, friends of friends gave us a number and said, one call and you're 1000% out of the country. I didn't exactly trust these people, but we figured we got a change by not take it. They told us they don't arrive things for 2 months out, call later. Even thought everything like border, housing, work, transport, you normally figure out ahead of time, so you're not stuck at a train station in a foreign country. But while we wait for an answer, we looked up what's actually going on in Czechia. Turns out I needed specific documents to bring Bagel's ashes across the border. I could we just snag them in my bag, but I didn't want to risk it. Some borders have strict checks. Best case, I'd pay a fine. Worst case, they take the urn. So I spent the next few weeks dealing with that. First thing I needed was a certificate from the vet confirming Bagel has been treated and passed from illness. Purely a formality but necessary. Vets are supposed to easy to right away, but they didn't give me one. To be fair, I was more focused on my pet's health at the time than some paperwork. Should been a simple pick, but no, she gave me the runaround. When I showed up in the morning, she straight up kicked me out. I'm working with a living client right now. Come back at closing to the dead ones. I didn't snap at her, but that pressing was completely uncalled for, highlighting Bagel's death like that stun. I went back in the evening explaining the situation and got, I never heard of this, why do you even need it? And are you sure they gave you your dog back after cremation? I was floored, zero empathy, and you're supposed to be a vet. She also asked why I didn't just bury the ashes under a tree. When I explained I wanted to keep him with me, she gave me this judgmental look. Like you're professional, what I do with my pet's remains shouldn't concern you. Everyone grieves differently. There was another issue too. Early in the summer, she told me Bagel couldn't get vaccinated because of his health. It might be too hard on him, but when I asked, she put that in the certificate and explained why. She tried to backtrack on her own words and agreed with me for age before finally giving me the paperwork, prying into personal stuff that had nothing to do with anything. After about an hour, I got the certificate and went home completely drained. And turns out Bagel likely had enteropathy and nephropathy, possibly hereditary, which might not have been caught early signs they often develop together over a long time, but I only found that over 3 months after losing him. The rest was by easy, just needed to get this death certificate notarized and translated. They got it done fast. I picked it up the very next day. Meanwhile, my boyfriend was dealing with his problems and undergoing rehabilitation, so it wasn't just me struggling. After that, we dropped off my laptop for routine cleaning. I wanted to tie up loose ends before leaving the country. Then I started making 3D models for my portfolio, but I found out too late that I wouldn't actually be able to work as a 3D artist in Czechia. I'd have to spend years retrenching first before even thinking about a career. By April, I started baking. Naturally, my mom kept interfering, giving unsolicited advice. I told her if she's struggling mentally, you cannot relive moments from your life, she'll see a therapist. She's been treating been it 4 years, but another session counted hard. If she doesn't want in person, that's online, but don't dump all the problems on me. It's not any easier for me, but she ignored me and kept up the pressure. Meanwhile, we called about Czechia again. They said that find housing work was available, explained where and how we'd be working, just coordinate with the driver on a date. We said April 18, then they went radio silence, barely responding, refusing to send photos of the place, ignoring calls. We almost cancelled the bus while we still called, but 3 days before they said we'd get the address the day off. So April 17, we're waiting. I'm a nervous wreck. We're supposed to leave at 4 am. It's 6 pm, still no address. We call him, he say it's come. Then they just stop answering. 10 pm hits, we release the no point waiting. We also screaming over the driver who's stressed too, so we tell him it's off. The moment we message the Czech contacts to say we're cancelling the bus because we never got the address, suddenly he responds. And with attitude like we were the one who followed him. We decided to cut ties with that guy. Next week we got another number, different terms. First they offered a hostel. We said no. Then another option, a room in apartment, but we'd have a work at the factory that provided it, and split in a place with someone else. We were fine with that, but catch, no locks of the interior doors. That stretched me out. How can I leave the rooms with all my stuff and documents open? We went back and forth on that, but same as last time, figure out with the driver address later. No photos, ignore, no address, so again we didn't go. Turns out they ghosted because new loves came out for Ukrainian, making it pretty much impossible to live normally. Was the time and energy for nothing. I called embassies in other countries, similar situation. So we decided to go back to our original plan, move to a different city. But then Spring Festival and holidays hit and housing got complicated. We were stuck another month. And during that time my grandma came back from work. Since I was about to move, my mom decided to leave her with us, and suddenly I had both of them on my back. When my mom left, it got even worse. There were moments my boyfriend had to step in the deep on me. My grandma's sneak peeking was next level. Not a day went by without a fight. She'd literally forbid us from spending our own money on food, saying we didn't know how to budget. She'd nag me over every little thing, just like my mom, reading about what she'd do without me, how many problems she'd had to deal with, and that behind my back she trash talked me. I accidentally overheard her on the phone with my mom. She was saying I'm not independent, I don't know how to do anything, I waste money on a nonsense, I'm secretive, I'm dressed wrong, I'm eat wrong, I just like my father, my boyfriend and I just sit at home all day, we only go out at night, we're not doing anything. At this rate we wouldn't move by summer. By literally a week later we found a place that worked for us and we went to sign the contract the next day. The hypocrisy kicked right back in. Grandma started guilt-tripping me again. How would she manage alone? Why wasn't I planning to visit them? Why wasn't I in a hurry to invite them over? Why wouldn't I call her every morning at night to report everything like I'm 5 years old? I explained I'm almost 20, I'm an adult, I don't need supervision, I'll decide how to live. They didn't accept then. Even after we moved, they didn't leave me alone. My mom and my grandma blew up my phone all day, even at night, because how dare I have my own life and not want to talk to them constantly, and whenever I did pick up, it was more as occasion. I explained everything perfectly clearly, but it doesn't really get thought to them. After the move, I finally found freedom. I have someone I love, I have hobbies, and soon I have work too. Actually, I'm planning to take commissions, so if anyone wants to order art or 3D models from me, and I'd be super grateful. I've decided I want to interact with my relatives. Every time we meet, it ends badly for me. My mental health issues and depression haven't gone anywhere, and extra stress just triggers everything. And besides what I've told you, there are other major reasons I can't talk about yet. And so what if I'm an ungrateful daughter and granddaughter to them? At least now I don't have to put up with them. I've been in my new place for a month and a half now, very settled in. There's videos on TikTok and Instagram. Despite everything, I'm surprisingly still alive and trying to keep moving forward. My grief over Bagel is slowly starting to fade. I still love him and I always will, but I managed to accept that he's gone. Everything that happened this past year I only got thought because of my boyfriend, and I'm so incredibly grateful to him. Alright, that is from me. Writing all this out made me relive every emotion, so I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe and hit like for my efforts. And of course follow me on my other social networks. I try not to disappear for this longer game. So thanks to everyone who made it to the end. This was Miss Rosa. See you next time. Bye.